Did you know? Approximately 96.5% of the world's water is made up of oceans. These gorgeous salty waters play an integral part to our story today as they act as a home for our whales, the stars of the ocean. There are 92 different species of whales having importance to many factors of human and aquatic life. Orcas, belugas, blue whales, and humpbacks are just a few well-known groups that will be the forerunners of our discussion. Our experts today will be discussing their importance. To start us off, Katrina Eche is an environmentalist who has dedicated her life to the preservation of these beautiful creatures and has spent much of her time researching the benefits to whales on our environments.
Well, to start, though most people are aware of the dangers whales face every day in terms of becoming endangered, not many people understand the gravity of what a world without whales would mean. Blue whales and humpback whales are carbon sinks, which means that they absorb carbon and remove it from the atmosphere. And when these whales pass away, they sink to the bottom of the ocean, taking all that carbon with them. This way, it gets released more slowly over time and has less of an effect on our environment. At the same time, blue whales also fertilize phytoplankton with their feces. Phytoplankton is another great absorber of carbon dioxide, increasing the amount of CO2 removed. Well, it's obviously quite beneficial. Without even knowing it, by reducing our carbon emissions in this way, these whales are helping their brothers and sisters by slowing climate change. Bottom of the line, if there's less of these animals, our carbon effects would be much more apparent.
Yes, climate change. It has an impact on all of us here on planet Earth. Some of the species on the planet are affected more than others by its abundant effects. Marine mammal enthusiast Elizabeth Chant has more to say on the subject.
Oh yes, definitely. As our temperatures rise and the ice caps begin to melt, lots of our whales are losing their homes and habitats. Belugas, for example, use the ice caps to hide from predators such as orcas and hunters. As the ice caps melt more and more, the belugas are left helpless.
There have been some regulations put into place. Gillian Slay, a representative from the United Nations, joins us today to help us understand recent legislations for the conservation of whales.
So globally speaking, many countries have their own proper regulations put in place for how they're going to conserve ecosystems in the oceans. In 2016, we had the Paris Agreement pass, in which 196 countries came together agreeing to help us decrease the projected 2 degrees Celsius increase down to 1.5 degrees Celsius increase. This 1.5, I'm sure, does not seem like a lot, but seeing as it is global, this 0.5 is going to be detrimental to the lives of ocean and land animals alike.
But climate change isn't the only thing that affects our aquatic friends. Kylie Hughes is an activist that has been working around the world to raise awareness for the well-being and preservation of whales.
Fishing nets, noise pollution, whale poaching, and regular pollution. All whales and sea life are affected by these human threats. It's outrageous. It's especially upsetting to think because it's all preventable. Sure, there are some laws and regulations in place, but is it ever enough? Will it ever be enough? Happy to. Noise pollution is any and all human activity that creates noise in the atmosphere, or in this case, under the water. Fishing boats, oil rigging, anything that creates excessive noise is problematic because whales primarily use echolocation to communicate. And how are they supposed to communicate if there's a whole bunch of other noise blocking them out? And besides, noise pollution is your good old-fashioned everyday pollution. Oil spills, emissions from ships, plastics of the microscopic and macroscopic variety, it all ends up in our oceans, poisoning the whales, ruining the oceans, and killing the planet. Really, that's just another form of pollution. They make these massive nets to scrape through the ocean, catching anything in sight. And a lot of the time, when they're done with them, they just trash them into the ocean. These trash nets trap many forms of sea life. Every species of whale gets caught. Orcas, belugas, blue whales, and humpbacks. Like I said, all sea life is affected by these nets.
The effects the fishing industry has on whales is immense. It is a contributor to waning food supplies for the whales, but it also contributes to noise pollution through boat engines. The nets of these boats cause a very upsetting scene when whales or other sea life get trapped in them, causing injury and, in many cases, death. Fortunately, for humpbacks at least, there are organizations out there working towards the collection of pollutants and the maintenance of environments.
Fortunately, yes. The Marine Mammals Protection Act was put in place, helping a lot with preserving environments and aiding the whales that get caught in these nets.
Ah, yes, the Marine Mammals Protection Act. It was signed into law in October of 1972 by POTUS Richard Nixon. It can be accredited with the protection of biodiversity among whales as well as their habitats.
Yeah, so the MMPA essentially enforces no taking any marine mammals from their habitat. It's largely enforced in the US, which is amazing. It prohibits exportation, importation, and the sale of marine mammal parts. Essentially, they monitor if people are bothering their breeding grounds, migration patterns, or generally just going too close to whales in general. That's a big no-go for the MMPA.
But really, the MMPA only regulates the waters under US territory, doesn't it? What about the rest of the world? Due to the fact that the ocean covers most of the planet, this means that whales like humpbacks, orcas, blue whales, and belugas can be found all around the world, and not just in US waters. What other organizations and regulations have been put into place to protect these majestic creatures? Well, there are many organizations such as the Worldwide Fund for Nature, the WWF, Oceana, and the Marine Megafauna Foundation, the MMF, that all work tirelessly to distribute their research regarding whales to the proper groups. With these research laws and regulations like the Fisheries Act in Canada, which protects whales and other marine mammals from overfishing and hunting, whales have protection in other parts of the world as well.
So yeah, the United Nations Convention of the Sea, also known as the UNCLOS, is an agreement between countries placing a duty on nations to partake in marine mammal conservation in regards to the laws placed by the International Whaling Commission.
Which brings us to the very controversial topic of whaling.
So initially, the discussion of international commercial whaling being banned happened at the Convention of 1946, which had some exceptions such as indigenous.
Unfortunately, illegal whaling is still a problem, despite the global protection laws.
There are always outliers. The Soviet Union continued to whale late into the 70s, and in Japan, whales are still being hunted for their meat and blubber. Fortunately, there's activist groups that peacefully combat illegal whale hunting ships, like the Sea Shepherd organization. They're a group that have specially designed ships that go out to sea for months at a time to hunt down illegal whaling ships. Once they find illegal whalers on the hunt, they use a special high-pressure water gun that kicks up spray and blinds the whalers, allowing the whales to escape.
We've discussed the importance of safekeeping these whales for our planet's benefit and for the ecosystem's benefit. But what about the significance of whales to people?
Oh, whales are incredibly important to many people culturally. Belugas are important, significant to the Inuit and Inuvialuit people of northern Canada, Alaska, and Greenland. Orcas have a lot of meaning to the indigenous peoples as well in their art and stories. It's strange that these are also the two types of whales that are most prominently kept in captivity.
What is the reason for their captivity?
Well, I suppose some people would argue that keeping them in captivity was beneficial for our research and education purposes. Like many animals, they were primarily kept captive as entertainment, though, initially. We did manage to learn a lot about them in captivity, but this was likely not the purpose. We learned how they are incredibly intelligent. We've also learned better in recent years about keeping these creatures in confined spaces when they are meant to be swimming freely in the ocean, in the wild. Of course, there's still a handful of orcas in captivity, but seeing as how they were bred in captivity, they would likely not survive in the wild.
Unfortunately, these captive orcas have also received bad reputation. Stresses in their environments have led to them attacking their human captors in the past. Some experts are concerned that these attacks could lead uneducated groups to sports killings. In various countries around the world, it is now illegal to keep these animals in captivity, although, in recent years, many things have been done to help these animals grow in population and to keep their habitats healthy and growing in captivity. It's a never-ending journey, and there's many things that can be done to help the world's aquatic mammals.
So we're currently working on an ambitious UN treaty to have plastic out of our oceans by 2030. This is another important step to conserving whales. We need to implement a comprehensive marine protection plan to protect 30% of our oceans that are just not regulated very much right now. So on an individual scale, what I recommend is partaking in this large-scale operation that we are doing with the UN called the UN Decade of Ocean Science. There is quite a bit of information as well as plans to conserving even further than we currently are.
There's a lot of volunteering organizations that promote clean beaches and oceans. Just doing your research to learn about what can be done can help.
We could all benefit from reducing the amount of plastic that is produced, driving less, and using public transportation more, recycling and composting. The environment and the whales will thank you.
There's online campaigns and petitions to sign. Sharing information through social media about the whales and the threats to their health and safety can go a long way. So can promoting their rights to live in a clean and safe environment.
And so, after exploring the world of whales, we come away with hopes for a brighter future for our friends, the whales.